I am a millennial. Don't. And I feel like we were set up to think that like 9 to 5 was a given, as an expectation. And I bucked that. I turned 31 on Sunday. And in my 31 years, I've been blessed to enjoy a lot of careers. And more blessed to enjoy 2 different career paths. I mean, truly enjoy, like excited to go to work. Currently, I'm a bartender. Come see me at Hodges Bend. I've been doing that for about 5 years and paying the bills better, most times, than my first love. My first love was teaching. And immediately out of college, I taught. My very first job at 15 years old was as a teaching assistant at a little Montessori elementary school. In my time in education, I've worked with kids aged 4 through about 16. The most memorable experience that I had was working for a nonprofit in Columbia, South Carolina for about 11 months called City Year. They have a presence here in Tulsa as well. It's an AmeriCorps organization. It was also one of the most emotionally stressful jobs I've ever had. The middle school that I worked at was one of the top 5 worst middle schools in the country at the time. The year before City Year went into this school, we were first year in this school, the team I was with. 13% of the entire student body of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders passed their math state exams. 0% passed any other subject. There's a show the History Channel had called Gangland. And they have one episode that is centered in Columbia, South Carolina about a gang called the Gangster Killer Bloods. And those are the neighborhoods my students came from. I got to witness an 11-year-old knock another student's teeth out of his mouth. That's a hard hit. And this kid was 11. One of my personal students decided she didn't want me as a tutor anymore because she wanted to have the same tutor as her friends. So she went to the guidance counselor and told her that I followed her into the girls' locker room. Luckily, the principal had gotten to know me, knew that I was a teacher in Virginia prior, didn't believe the young girl, brought her into the office, and was able to, talking with the girl, get her to admit that she made it up. So I was safe. But now this young girl who drastically needs this program more than ever now, no longer has access to it. I had another young man who was the star quarterback for the middle school football team, and y'all from the South know nothing else matters except football in school, and sometimes band, which is great. One of my students, he was 15 years old, still in 8th grade, on a 2nd grade reading level. And my job was to get him on an 8th grade reading level in 9 months, while he was still a star quarterback and still in a gang. I grew up in a lower middle class white family from rural Maryland. Pretty sheltered religious family. I had no idea how to approach these kids. Thought I did. Thought that I was going to be the one to come in and change things. Kind of got that whole white savior complex. Like, I can do something no one else has done because I care. It was one of the single most humbling years of my life, and I felt like I accomplished nothing. Not a single one of my students got up to grade level on their reading. A few that I continue to follow on Facebook dropped out of high school. No idea where they are now. I stay in touch with some of my coworkers. And that time in that city also introduced me to poetry slams, which is a big passion of mine as well now. And it was an incredible experience on the side of that job. And it was the only respite I had from this heartbreaking experience. When my job ended with City Year, I applied to 12 different school districts in 5 different states and didn't even get a call back. This was 2010. As the previous storyteller mentioned, very difficult to get hired in any industry, let alone one such as so underfunded as education. So I returned to Maryland, and in my mid-20s, moved in with my parents, got a job waiting tables at a Denny's, went back to the American Eagle Outfitters that I had worked at in high school as a stock guy. Just trying to pay bills, figure out what was next. And that fall, I was able to return to Columbia as a featured performer at the Poetry Slam there that I had gotten my start at. And I had notified some of my former coworkers who had stayed with City Year that I was coming back in town. And one in particular was generous enough to tell that year's corps that a former corps member was returning, performing poetry at this place at this time on this night. And some corps members showed up, 3 of them. And after the show, one young woman approached me and she said, "Here, I told some of my students that I was coming to see you, and one of them gave me this." She handed me a letter. And I opened up this letter. It was one of my former students. And I still have it. The letter said, "Mr. Blaine, you are the reason I finished middle school. You are the reason I'm doing well in high school. You are the reason I want to go to college." I had left that year thinking that I'd done nothing memorable. And that letter is the single greatest gift that I've ever received in any of my time in any job.